I love bags. I love big bags and little bags and zipper bags and snap bags. Well, today I am going to show you how easy it is to make these in the hoop zipper bags. The ones that I'm going to be making today is for your 5x7 hoop, but the same method goes for any type of hoop that you're going to use, whether it's a bigger bag or a smaller bag. Okay, let's get started. To make this bag for your 5x7 hoop, you are going to need the following supplies. You're going to need 9x7, 9x5, and 9x3 inches of exterior bag fabric, 9x7, 9x5, and 9x3 inches of your lining fabric, 100% cotton batting, 8x6 inches, 8x4 inches, and 8x2 inches. And since this bag contains applique, you're going to need small fabric scraps for your appliques. You're going to need a 9-inch or larger nylon zipper, definitely not metal, cutaway stabilizer, enough to hoop, polyester or rayon embroidery thread, 40 weight, size 11 embroidery needle, 3-inch piece of ribbon, optional, scotch tape or painter's tape. You'll also need embroidery machine, 5x7 embroidery machine, hoop, ruler, pins, and scissors. 100% cotton batting was used for the instructions, but you can also substitute a light color of felt or fleece interfacing. The first step is to hoop your stabilizer. For zipper bags, I love the Sulky Cutaway Plus. It's nice and soft, and at the same time it holds the stitchings very well. I have already loaded the pattern into my machine, and I have already threaded it. So now I'm going to put my stabilizer and hoop in the machine, and I'm going to stitch this first step directly onto my stabilizer. This step is going to stitch out the placement line for the zipper. Okay, the next step is probably the trickiest step for a lot of people, because you have to attach your zipper and your first set of fabrics at the same time. So you're just going to place your zipper in between these stitching lines and then secure it at the top with a piece of tape. Now notice that I have a longer zipper than I really need. That's just because I never know what I'm going to be making, so I just order a whole bunch of zippers in a size 14-inch. And then I can always use them. So now I'm going to take the bottom front piece of fabric and I'm going to place it along the bottom edge of the zipper. And then I'm going to tape that in place. Now I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to repeat that step with my lining fabric along that bottom edge. And secure in place with some tape. Okay, what this is going to do is we're going to stitch right along there, and that is going to secure your zipper and your fabrics to the stabilizer. Okay, please notice that when I am putting this into the machine, I am holding on to this bottom fabric because you want to make sure it stays in place. Because if it doesn't, it's going to move and you are going to have to start all over again. So, see, stayed in place nicely. So now I can go on ahead and stitch that first stitching line. Remove it from the machine. Okay, as you can see, I have completely removed the pieces of tape along the bottom edges of the fabric.
That's very important because if you stitch through them, there's a good chance you're going to gum up your needle, and that can break your threads, and it's just going to be a big pain. Also, I don't know if I mentioned before, but this is actually your 5 by 9 pieces of fabric. Okay, that's going to be the bottom part of your zipper bag. Now you're going to take your 8 by 4 piece of, mine's cut a little bigger, batting, and you are going to lay it so that the edge of the batting is right up against that row of stitching. And then you're going to pull this down. Now, very important to make sure that your back fabric here is up and out of the way. So I'm just going to secure these in place with some pins. Very important too to keep your pins away from your stitching lines, because you don't want your pins to actually run over a needle. I mean, you don't want your machine to run over a pin. Okay, so now this is up and out of the way, and my batting is underneath the front bottom fabric. So now I'm going to take it to the machine and we're going to begin our decorative stitching. I'm now going to put this into the machine, and as I do, I want you to notice that the fabric on the back is up and out of the way. You don't want it in the stitching. We're going to make sure we always keep that up and out of the way until we're ready to put the bag together. So, we begin our decorative stitching. All our decorative stitching on the lower half of the bag is complete. So now we need to remove this tape here, because we are going to take our 3 by 9 pieces of fabric, which is going to be the top portion of the bag, and we are going to place that along this zipper edge, just like we did the first time, and we are going to tape it in place. And we're going to flip this over. Now this time you want to make sure that this is down and out of the way. This row of stitching, line up right there, like that. Okay, so you've got your lining, and then you've got your outer bag fabric. And they're both secured. So now you're going to take this back to the machine and you are going to stitch this row of stitching. It is also important to note that when you are stitching this line here, you need to make sure that your lining piece on this side stays flat like that. So I'm going to put this on the machine. Very carefully. I'm going to go ahead and stitch that in place. Okay, now you can see that we have stitched the top portions of our bag down on both sides. Okay, see how nice that's going to be? Okay, so now you're going to flip it over, and this time you're going to make this stay flat, just like you did for stitching. Okay, so leave that down because we don't want that in our stitching area, because this time our stitching area is going to be up here. Now we're going to take our 8 by 2 inch piece of batting, and we are going to line it up along that stitching line just like you did down here, and this time we're going to pull this up and we are going to secure it with pins. Remember, keep those pins far out of your stitching line. You don't want to accidentally stitch through them. Okay, so you're going to take it to the machine and you're going to stitch the lettering up here. Now, again, You want to keep this out of the stitching line, so you're going to keep it flat against the bottom and down. Okay? Now my upper stitching is complete. So I'm going to remove all of these pins because we don't need them anymore. Now we reach a very critical step. Putting your little ribbon piece on and then stitching your backing to the front. The critical part is open your zipper. If you don't open that zipper, you're going to be ripping out stitches later. So open the zipper halfway, and then I like to leave about an inch maybe for my little ribbon. So I'm placing the ribbon with the folded edge toward the zipper, and then I am just going to secure that in place with some tape. Okay, now I'm going to take my the backing fabric, which is your 9x7 piece, and I'm going to place it right over that. See, just like that. Now I'm going to take my last piece of batting and I'm going to place it there. Now I need to pin this down to secure, but I need to make sure that my bottom pieces are where they're supposed to be. So I'm going to pull the top piece up and the bottom piece will be down. That's what it's going to look like on the back. Okay, so now I'm going to just put a couple of pins in up here. And I'm going to do the same with this down here. Now here's a little trick. Here is the back side, and occasionally, depending on your machine or the way the fabric is laying, this can kind of like shift and you can stitch it like how you don't want it. So what I do is I just take a couple of pieces of tape and then I just secure them down so that that does not happen. Okay? Now I'm going to take this back to the machine and I'm going to make sure the bottoms, everything is where it's supposed to be. Then I'm going to stitch the back to the front. All that stitching is done. So now I'm going to remove my pins and I'm going to flip this over to the back side. Now I'm going to place my last piece of fabric over those stitching lines with the right sides together. And then I'm going to take it back to the machine and do my final stitching. Okay, all fixed. See? That's how it should look. Now it's time to remove everything from the hoop. So now you can take some scissors and cut all the way around. What I like to do is start like this, and then I'll trim that down later. Then I just go all the way around within 1/4 of an inch. Don't use your best scissors for this because that zipper is really going to dull them. Get kind of close to the stitching. Yeah, especially around the corners you might want to get a little closer. Okay, so now I'm going to make a little turn here and fix this because God. Okay, Oh, and fix that there. And if you want, you can trim away a little bit of the batting. You don't have to, but I like to do it. It makes it turn a little bit nicer, makes the edges a little more finished looking. Okay, now what I'm going to do, this here is your lining. Okay, so what you're going to do is separate these from all of this. And now you're just going to cut right across there like that. And then you can trim these down as well. Okay, so that's what you have now. Now we're going to bring your bag to life. We're going to begin by taking this opening here and turning the bag right side out through that opening. These bigger bags have bigger openings, so it's a lot easier than the little small bags, but a little patience and it gets there. So I just simply take my scissors at this point and push out my corners, because they got to be pushed out in this step or they're not going to look right in the next step. Very important. There we go. And we've got one more. Okay. Now, this is your lining. So what you've got to do here is stitch your lining closed. I just put in a couple of pins. I'll sip that little excess thread away. And then I'm just going to simply stitch all along there. This is actually a very quick stitch. But if you don't want to use a needle and thread, you don't want to do any stitching, you don't have to. You could use something like, what is it, liquid stitch, where it's like a glue, but you got to wait for it to dry. There's other stuff that you can fuse, like seam tape. You can fuse that. I like to stitch because I think it's foolproof. Now that your lining opening is stitched, you're going to turn the bag one more time. Now, you notice that you have your stabilizer there. You need to be very careful, because if you're not, while you are cutting away your stabilizer, you can cut right through your zipper, and you don't want that. So I like to do the seam ripper, and I put it in there, and I make sure that I didn't go through my zipper. Then I just go right along there. And in fact, for this one, I'm just going to put the little ball side down. And then repeat that step right here. Remember, it's very easy to go right through your zipper. So, it's not what you want to happen. And I'm going to do this like this. Okay, cut that away. Now, if you used a water-soluble stabilizer, you could just moisten that whole area and then it would come off. But I like to use the sulky. So now you're going to open your zipper the rest of the way, and you're going to turn it right side out. There's your tape. Push through with your scissors. Push out those corners. And there you have it. You can go and you could snip away all your loose threads. And then I just like to give it a quick little iron on the back side, because I don't like the iron touching my stitches, because I've noticed sometimes they can make them like really shiny looking and it doesn't look right. So there you have it. Zipper bag. Zipper, no problem. Nice and easy.
If you are new to In the Hoop by Sher, you might want to sign up for our weekly newsletter. There's a free embroidery design almost every weekend. If you want to make your own zipper bag, you will find the link to them and the link to the newsletter in the notes below this video. If you enjoyed the video and found it helpful, please like, subscribe, share, or comment. Thank you for watching. I hope this video has inspired you to create something special for yourself or someone else.